It wouldn't be one bomb. It wouldn't be one city. If nuclear war actually started, it would be thousands of warheads launched within minutes, forever scarring entire continents. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Not everyone dies instantly. Millions of people live through the flash. The real question is, could you survive what comes next? This isn't about one tactical nuke in a movie. This is about a full-scale war. In this video, we're going to look at what nuclear war would actually mean for ordinary people, and whether there's any real chance of surviving at all. Let's start with the physics. A nuclear weapon is a device that releases an insane amount of energy in a tiny fraction of a second. That energy shows up as four main things. First, blast, a shock wave of compressed air that flattens buildings, shreds windows, and turns anything not bolted down into high-speed shrapnel. Second, thermal radiation, intense heat and light that can ignite fires, burn skin, and blind eyes at surprising distances. Third, nuclear radiation, a two-stage killer. It strikes first as an instant, invisible burst of gamma rays that penetrates solid walls, then lingers as toxic fallout that poisons the air and soil for years. And fourth, EMP, the electromagnetic pulse that can fry unprotected electronics over a huge region, depending on the altitude of the detonation. Real nuclear war means thousands of overlapping blast circles across thousands of miles in under an hour. A single missile bus can carry multiple warheads, each aimed at a different target. One launch button, many fireballs. So, what gets hit first? From a targeting point of view, the first priority is to decapitate and disarm. That means going after nuclear forces and command structures. In the United States, that's missile fields in the Great Plains. Think Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming. It's bomber bases, airfields, and submarine bases on the coasts. It's command and control centers, places like Washington, D.C., the Pentagon, and hardened facilities buried in mountains. Then the major infrastructure nodes, big ports, oil refineries, industrial hubs, and the largest cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Seattle, even partners like Toronto. Russia has its own equivalent target list, so does China. But for this breakdown, we'll imagine warheads coming down on the North American map. Now, once the first waves hit, what actually happens to people? Let's take a typical 300-kiloton warhead, such as the US W-87. At the epicenter, anyone inside the fireball radius, roughly half a mile, is simply gone, vaporized, incinerated, turned into part of the rising dust cloud. Next comes the heavy blast zone, extending out to 1 mile, with severe structural damage out to 2 miles. Here, the overpressure shreds reinforced concrete, flattens houses, and rips up highways. Survival here is almost zero for anyone in normal buildings. Only deep, specially engineered bunkers offer a real chance. Farther out, reaching 2 to 3 miles, lies the moderate damage zone. The shockwave exerts 5 psi of pressure, enough to crush most residential buildings, blow out windows, and ignite fires. However, survival here is physically possible immediately after the blast, provided you are indoors and shielded from collapsing debris. Overlapping these blast effects is the thermal radius, which extends 3 to 5 miles out. The heat flash at this distance causes third-degree burns. These destroy pain nerves and can result in severe scarring, disablement, or amputation. Finally, the light damage zone extends 5 to 6 miles and beyond. Windows shatter, interior walls fail, and flying glass causes serious injuries, but the structures generally stand. However, in the hours following the explosion, this is where radioactive fallout turns a surviving neighborhood into a toxic hazard. In a full-scale strike on the US, tens of millions would die quickly. Fires, collapsing buildings, burns, and prompt radiation take their cut. Some models estimate 90 million casualties in the first few hours alone. More would die in the days and weeks after from injuries, lack of medical care, and the first wave of fallout. But entire regions would not be flattened. They would be dark, cut off, shocked, but still physically there. That's where the question, could you survive, really starts to matter, because the bombs and blast are the opening act. The real killer after the dust settles is fallout and climate. Fallout happens when a ground burst sucks soil, debris, and buildings up into the mushroom cloud. That radioactive dirt cools, forms particles, and rains back down with the wind, silently settling on fields, rooftops, rivers, and in your lungs. Fallout doesn't land randomly. It rides the jet stream west to east across America, painting deadly plumes downwind of missile fields and cities, creating zones where radiation doses are lethal in the short term. And that's just from strikes on North America. If cities in Europe, Russia, and Asia are also hit, their smoke doesn't stay put. Upper winds mix it globally. Models predict that high-altitude soot would dim sunlight across the entire planet. This triggers a nuclear winter. Darker skies, colder temps, global crop failures. Modern life grinds to a halt. No food, no electricity, no clean water, no medicine, no heat, no communication. Even if your town isn't a target, the complex system keeping civilization running just collapsed. For the last several decades, the nuclear world has been held together by a fragile, ugly idea called deterrence, mutually assured destruction, MAD. The belief that if you nuke me, I nuke you, and we both lose everything, so neither of us starts. That logic depends on second strike capability, the ability to absorb a first hit and still hit back. That's why submarines hide in the oceans. That's why silos are spread out across the plains. The main existential pairing for North America has been the US and Russia. Between them, they hold most of the world's strategic warheads. But China, France, the UK, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea add massive complexity to the map. Regional conflicts, like India versus Pakistan, might seem far away if you're in Kansas or Ontario, but in a crisis, miscalculations, false alarms, or cyber interference can ripple through alliance networks and early warning systems instantly. Nuclear war isn't one single evil madman pushing a red cartoon button. It's a chain of radar readings, doctrine documents, communication lines, political egos, and human stress, all stacked on top of one another. So, when you ask, could I survive a nuclear war, you're actually asking, where do I live in this targeting logic, and how hard does the system above me fail? If you're in a major city like New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, or near a major military base, your odds in a full exchange are near zero. Multiple warheads would turn the area into overlapping fireballs and rubble. If you're in a mid-sized city, near an industrial hub that isn't top of the list, your odds improve. You might be outside the blast zones, but trapped in crippled infrastructure. If you're in a small Midwest town, deep rural Canada or Alaska, the odds of seeing a fireball on the horizon drop, but the risks of a dead power grid, no fuel, no supply chain, and drifting fallout, those skyrocket. So, could you survive? The honest answer is, some people almost certainly would, at least through the first days and weeks. Geography alone guarantees that not every square mile gets flattened. But survival becomes less about heroism and more about statistics, about whether your town was on a list, about whether your food and medical lifelines still exist, about whether the climate above your crops is the same next year. Most survival in a nuclear war would look like confusion, isolation, shortages, and a long, grinding struggle in a country that no longer functions as a country. Your personal odds are shaped by decisions in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and other capitals, by treaties, de-escalation protocols, and early warning safeguards. The only real survival strategy is making sure these weapons never launch in the first place. If you like this breakdown, please hit the like and subscribe button. Also, check out our video on the Carrington event and the Yellowstone supervolcano if you're curious about other world-ending scenarios. Tactical Bear out.